This is Critical Commentary with Maurice Williams. Today we're going to discuss Trump's continuing connection to the Epstein files, as well as the real history behind the N-word, and we'll cover Nick Fuentes' continued feud calling out the Republican Party MAGA. Blacks, Hispanics, and whites can't read. Why you think I started a podcast? It's a fucking racist thing with you niggas, and that's why I'm coming at you niggas next. They love to talk about black violence. Have you heard of white violence? White people commit violent crime at 3 times the rate of Asians. When is Nick Fuentes gonna talk about white violence? Everybody's arguing about their 2 genders. I sat next to her hermaphrodite in math class. Am I allowed to talk about the Jews? If she wanted, we could do it in the morning. Yawning, letting my eyes stretch, baby, I ain't a novice. I've been a dog, she FaceTime, but I never call. Over the weekend, a congressman, Robert Garcia, not the boxing trainer, but the congressman sat down with Democrat Docket, and he discussed what he was doing in terms of getting the Epstein files out. He's in charge of one of the committees, and he's been helping on the Democratic side, trying to push through the procedural processes to get the files out to the American public. He's been working on this for about 4 months. And when he sat down, he explained to the Democracy Docket some of his findings. So I'll play that for you guys right now.
To me, that this is a massive White House cover-up. And I think this last week, for anyone that was doubting that, that doubt should be gone. Donald Trump right now is obsessed with keeping these files hidden from the American public. And he's going to immense lengths and using presidential power and bringing in members of Congress to the Situation Room and doing everything he can to stop this release. And it's clear that right now, all arrows are pointing back to the White House. There is one man in our country that has the power right now to bring justice to the survivors and to release the files, and that's the President of the United States.
So I discussed how he's on the Democratic side, but to be fair, Thomas Massie is also helping on the Republican side to whip up votes to get this pushed through the House first, and then they'll push it through the Senate. So based upon his findings, what he is saying is that Trump always had the power to release the files, but they're having to push the issue because he doesn't want to. And then also later on in the interview, he discussed how Trump sat with Pam Bondi when he found out that his name was in the files. That's one of the reasons he doesn't want the files out. But then he also met with Lauren Boebert, which is another congresswoman, and she works on the Republican side. So Trump basically called in Republican congressmen because he's trying to delay this process. And he at first wanted to completely call it a hoax and brush it off and see if people would move forward. But the public, as well as the Congress, is holding his feet to the fire. He said he would release it. We want it released. So because he's basically seeing in the political headwinds that he can't get rid of this situation, he's now trying to get in front of the situation by having Pam Bondi and other people in the Justice Department look into Democrats who may have connections to Epstein as well. So what many people are saying is, now that there's an open investigation, the Justice Department is going to say that despite what Congress says, they won't be able to comment or release anything because they're still investigating the situation with Epstein. This is drastically different from like 5 months ago when they said they looked into everything. Kash Patel came out and said, we've looked into everything. We found everyone. It was just Epstein and Maxwell. And they said there was no more information. So the case should have been closed. Therefore, they shouldn't still be investigating it. So we should get the information. But now Trump is trying to put an okie doke and he's saying, oh, my name's in it. Let's see who else's name's in it. And let's continue to investigate to find out how broad, how many people were involved. That's just from the technical side. I also wanted to cover it more so in like from the cultural aspect. So we know about Donald Trump. We know about his history. He lived in the 90s pretty much in front of the limelight. So this woman, Heather Barton, kind of goes in detail about some of Trump's history that some of you may have forgotten or hadn't thought of recently. And this is from the Majority Report with Sam Cedar.
Donald Trump said back in 2002, he's a good friend of mine, lots of fun to be with. And like me, he loves beautiful women, and some of them are on the younger side. I mean, we knew that. He knew that. He knew that Jeffrey Epstein had a bunch of younger girls around. And in that comment, it sounds to me like he was saying, yeah, and I like them younger too. So, I mean, and, we've seen the stuff he says about young women, the Miss Teen Universe pageant, all this stuff. So the idea now that suddenly we've got, look, Trump may have been involved in this after all.
She's speculating with a few things here, but some of these things were true. Trump has been known, or they have footage of him saying questionable things to teen pageants, as well as he said questionable things about his daughter Ivanka. But then also his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein is on the record. Actually, at one point, victims are saying that Trump's picture was on Epstein's desk. Not just Trump, but Trump and Epstein together. So basically, we already knew they were friends, and the speculation that she is drawing is she's saying that since Trump said he likes women on the younger side, she's speculating that meant underage women. And then she's also speculating that when Trump said that Epstein likes women on the younger side, that Trump knew that it was underage women. So we don't have any proof that Trump likes underage women, and we also don't have any proof. Well, we do have proof on Epstein, but we don't have proof that Trump knew that Epstein was talking to underage women. Most people like myself do kind of think, okay, a lot of people may not know this, but in Britain and Europe, many countries, the age of consent is 16, and actually in some states in America, the age of consent is 16. So it's kind of one of those things where Donald Trump and Epstein, these are older guys. So back in their time, they may have not had the policy that, I subscribe to. And most people now, if they're under 18, you definitely don't talk to them or do anything sexual. Shoot, at my age, I'm not even talking to people under 21, right? So, but back in the day, men would talk to younger women. So you have these older men who maybe back in their time, they were pushing the envelope and they thought it was okay. But by the time we got to the 90s and 2000s, they should have known better. And I know Epstein was abusing women. And I actually do believe that other dignitaries, not just Harry, but potentially Trump, Clinton, etc., they pushed the envelope. They were powerful. They thought they could get away with it. So that's why I'm one of the people who, like most Americans, are saying, look, Trump had the term drain the swamp, but we want to get rid of these people who abused their power back in the day. So many of them are old, so maybe we can't punish them in the way that we would have if we would have caught them in the act or when they were younger and powerful. But still, we don't want to have these people still in the political sphere. So even though some of them may not be running for office, they still have money, etc. Whether they're Democrats or Republicans, they're still part of the machine. So I don't care whose side the people get caught on, whether they're Republicans or Democrats. I just think that they should no longer be a part of the power structure in the political machine in America. So again, there have been 20,000 emails have already come out. So more will come out, and then eventually the files will come out. So we'll just continue updating you guys on the stories, whether it's big names, etc. And I'll just state my opinion about, how I feel on both sides of anybody who does get caught or we find out more information about them. Now, in terms of, to close on this, some of the information may be trivial, right? So there's stuff coming out about Hillary Clinton had an affair and stuff like that. I don't think that's not abusing any minors, and that Hillary Clinton is no longer like running for office. So certain things, if it's something that has no impact on our lives, we won't cover it. I'm not so much into the salacious angle, but I am into, obviously, the hard criminals need to go to jail, and then anybody in power, we don't want them to continue to have an influence or say in our government. Yesterday's episode, I discussed the N-word, right? So NIGGR is considered a slur. I don't consider it a slur because I feel like I've looked into the etymology of the word. So that's what I wanted to do with you guys today. Is go over they say the N-word, right? So now everybody knows black people pretty much say N-I-G-G-A, nigga, which came from N-I-G-G-E-R, which was nigger, which was meant as a slur. But the word N-I-G-G-R, nigger, which was meant as a slur, right? It comes from Niger, the Latin N-I-G-E-R. And then you have Niger, the country in Nigeria, right? But then also going back further than Latin, Latin got a lot of its letters, etc., from the Greeks and the Phoenicians, etc., and they were inspired, and not gonna say they based their language, but they got a lot of their language components from Semitic people, and Semitic would count Middle Eastern, but also it goes all the way down into East Africa, right? So tracing back the lineage of the word nigger all the way, and you'll see this, for example, when you look at something like France's Negas. German is Neger, Neger. Spanish is Negro, which a gang in America, they call black people Negroes because what they were saying was Negro means black, but they were saying it in another language to poke fun at black people. So this is also true of the word Negas, which it comes from East Africa, Giaz. That's the place near, I think it's in Ethiopia or it's in Eritrea, one of those places. But that's where the term Neges comes from. It's a Semitic term, right? Negus, and it's Negas. And so they meant it as a term of royalty, right? So if you trace the lineage back to really what Negas means, it means royalty, it means king. And actually in Semitic languages, like when people talk about Jesus, they say the King of Kings, etc. They would have been calling Jesus a nigga, ironically, in the Semitic languages. So though I do understand Niggr is meant to be a slur, I just think if you just follow the history of the word, all it ever meant was black. And before it meant black, it actually meant king. So I think the joke is more on white people who try to use it in a derogatory way towards blacks. And I think black people should consider like not always accepting what white people throw at you, right? So maybe they meant Negro as a slur because it means black. Maybe they meant Niga, the German, Neger as a slur because it meant black. And maybe the white Americans just tried to add to it and put their little spin on it and say Niggger. For all I know, they might have just been retarded because I don't think whites are the smartest and they might have just misspelled the word. But regardless of what their intent was, I just think that black people should know their history and know that when we created the term, because it was East Africans who created the term Negas, when we created the term, we meant kings, we were kings, we was kings, as they say, we still are kings. So I know a lot of people may not follow me on this and they may say, well, now the word means something different. It only means something different because people have allowed someone else to take over our actual word. So not only could we reclaim the word like we said and saying Nigga, we can also reclaim the word in actuality. What it really meant was king. And yes, we was kings. Probably should have played this clip for you guys, but I'll play it so you guys can see that I'm not making up the etymology of the word. Hold on.
Negus.
What is the language of origin?
Ethiopian to Amharic.
What is the definition?
A king. It's used as a title of the sovereign of Ethiopia. Negus.
Could you use it in a sentence?
The Negus ruled Ethiopia until the coup of 1974.
Negus.
Andrew, would you say the word loudly for the judges?
Negus.
One more time.
Negus.
Negus.
Negus. Negus. Negus.
I just think that clip's funny, but like they say, rulers, Ethiopia, kings, and also, I guess another time I'll have to do another deep dive, but this kind of is a graph, a picture showing people. So this is Giaz, this is around Ethiopia, Eritrea. I think that's Ethiopia and Eritrea is right there, but that's where the word came from. And then as you see, the Semitic languages start in East Africa, and then they go up through the Arabic, the Semites that we know from Saudi Arabia, etc. And then as you see, Hebrew is big here. So I think in Hebrew, king might be Malik or Malachi or something like that. And so basically, a lot of these terms that are now used in like Ashkenazi Jews and in other Hebrew languages or spin-off Hebrew languages, the roots of these words and the roots of a lot of the beliefs actually, like Amen and a few of the other things, they actually started in either Sudan or Ethiopia, and then they made their way up as people migrated through Egypt and into the Levant. So probably another time on another episode, I'll discuss maybe like the history of Judaism, because a lot of people think of the Jews as the Ashkenazi Jews, but the original Jews were the Ethiopian Jews who are acknowledged now, but at one point people didn't want to acknowledge that they had Ethiopian Jews. But yeah, so I'll discuss that on a later time and not go off on a tangent. There are a few clips from Nick that we're gonna play today. Let's see what he said. This one, let's actually play it, see what he said.
It goes the same way in the right wing. let me ask you this. If I went live on my show on Monday, this coming Monday, and I said, fuck Islam, I said, these Muslims need to go home. Fuck them. They're barbarians. They're third worldists. They like to live in open sewage and bomb crap. You think any conservative would disavow me? Any of them? Any Republican? You think if I was known for saying that, do you think I would have any trouble getting into CPAC or the New York Young Republican Club Gala or the GOP? Of course not, because Laura Loomer has access to the White House and she says stuff like that. Ben Shapiro has access to Trump and he says stuff like that. Could you imagine? Not to be a boomer here, but could you imagine if the shoe were on the other foot? It has to be left unsaid. Could I turn around and say F Judaism and those Jews and send them back to Israel? Like, it's literally unthinkable to even say the words. But we all know it's tolerated with Muslims. We all know it's tolerated with blacks. We all know it's tolerated with Hispanics, Asians. And yes, for far too long, it was tolerated against whites and Christians. And that's just the part that got left out. But now that we have this culture of liberalization,
He's not all the way wrong. He's not all the way right. I'll say that obviously the group that no one can talk about supposedly, and to an extent it seems that way with the media now online, X, because Elon owns it. They're just Rumble, etc. There are platforms you could talk about Jews, but in terms of like the mainstream media, yes, if you're talking about Jewish people, and I'll go over the history because of the Holocaust, because of the war that was fought, because of the Jews that were killed in the Holocaust, you're not allowed to touch on that topic because they're concerned that the hatred could boil over to a point where they try to kill more Jews. So I understand it. He said you can't say it about blacks. I'm not sure because Nick is canceled for saying the N-word. So I can't say that it's just Jewish people. White people cannot walk around saying the N-word. So blacks and Jews, because of slavery and the Holocaust, are treated different from Muslims. I do understand his point. Many people on the right say disgusting things about Islamic people. They're allowed to be representatives, congressmen, the president, work in the White House, etc. So there is a double standard on the Republican side where you can't talk about, you can't talk about blacks publicly, but privately they do talk about blacks. And if it were to get out, they probably would lose their job. But like he says, Lauren Loomer is talking publicly about Muslim people, and for whatever reason, I would suppose that the reason that this is okay is because in America is Muslims are not a large population. Arabic people, they're a small population, and they don't have like the power and influence as Jewish people, and they don't have the historical event of the Holocaust. So therefore, since they don't have that situation, society has basically said, okay, we can talk about this group because there's no fear that something will happen to them because nothing has happened to them in American history. I don't agree with that. I believe that everybody should be treated the same. So I do think if it's okay to talk about make Islamic jokes or talk about Muslims, I think it should be okay as well to talk about Jews, Christians, atheists, etc. But I also do understand that we should be respectful. So what I don't want is, just because we have freedom of speech, I don't want anything to happen to any of these groups. This from Fuentes Updates. It says Nick lays out the message for 2026.
politics begins. And this is the message for 2026. This is so important. We have to take a look, just like the Israel lobby is. And in 2026, we need to be keeping a list of names. And by we, I mean America first. Any politician that has disavowed Tucker Carlson, we have to get the word out. Don't vote for them. Vote for their primary candidate or their primary opponent. And if they win their primary, don't vote for them in the general. That has to be the message. This is the only way to hold their feet to the fire. This is the only way to make it work. This is what I said in 2021, in 22, and 24. We have to use our vote in the affirmative and in the negative. We need to create the list. If you're with Tucker, you have our vote. If you disavow Tucker, you don't. If you cannot take a stand for America first, then you have no business being an elected official in the American government. That is the message. In 2026, in the midterms, we are showing up, and the Groypers are showing up with us. If you disavow Tucker, you will not get the votes. If you disavow the Israel lobby like Thomas Massey, we will show up for you. And by we, I don't just mean the Groypers. I mean everybody that is America first. Ian Carroll and Anna Kasparian and Tucker and all of them. If you're America first, we will help you. If you are America last, we will punish you. And the GOP has a decision to make. If they are willing to go America first, then maybe they can keep their majority. Or they can hold off the worst losses in the face of the Democrats. But if the Republican Party doubles down on America last, then they will be finished in America. And we have to be willing to let them go extinct. Have to be willing to play hardball. We can no longer make the compromise that we will let you put America last in order to defeat the Democrats. No, America first is a precondition. And we will single you out. If you're America last, we will make you lose. If you're America first, we will help you win. And we are outcome independent. If Republicans keep the House, then God bless. If they lose it, so be it. We're not going to tolerate an America last GOP anymore. 2016 was about this. In some way, this entire fight for the past 10 years has been about this. We are not going to allow the GOP to slide back into serving the global special interests, the Israel lobby, international banks, Wall Street, and Silicon Valley. That's the call to action. So Trump said, let them fight. I say, bring it on now. What do you got now, Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro? You just got the rug pulled out from under you. There goes your sugar daddy, Shapiro and Mark Levin. You have nobody else to hide behind. No more tricks, no more cancellation, no more censorship. It's just you and me, pal. You and me, Shapiro and me, Levin and me, and Tucker and the others. And now I think they're going to be a lot less confident. Mark Levin says, who's platforming Marjorie Taylor Greene? What, are you going to cancel all of them? Good luck. Mark Levin says, we're taking names. We're going to make our decisions in 26. So are we, fat boy. So are we, fat man. We are doing the same exact thing. Let's see who they listen to. Let's see who the politicians really listen to. Will they listen to the voters when we have activists showing up in their district? Will they listen to the Joe Kent effect, or will they listen to you? That's the fight.
Okay, so Nick has been fighting for a long time for America first. He's been fighting against the Israel lobby and foreign influence. Mostly he focuses on Israel, but I think there are many other governments who also try to have influence in America, whether that be China, whether that be Qatar, etc. He's saying that after his interview with Tucker Carlson, a lot of people said they would cancel Tucker or not platform him. So one of the people was Mark Levin, but then also the Heritage Foundation spoke in Nick's defense just for free speech. Not saying they agreed with him, but then their president had to step down. So basically Nick is saying the way he wants, first he wants the Groypers because that's his support base. But then outside of just the Groypers, he wants other Americans to fight back and say, if you're against foreign influence over our government, APEC, etc., he wants you to primary the politicians who are already being paid by APEC, who are already visiting Israel. Like there was some conference where it was like 50 states and then one Israel. So basically, he's just stating that these politicians are already receiving money from Israel, through not directly from Israel, but from Jewish organizations like APEC and organizations that he believes are heavily influenced by Israel. And he's saying that we have to use our vote to have our voices heard. So he is saying that they'll have activists out there, but then also he's saying that we can use our votes to primary people that we don't agree with. I think these are wonderful things for people to do. I'm not personally saying you should just primary somebody because they get money from APEC, etc. But I do believe that if you have an issue with what's going on, the only way to hold the politicians accountable is with your vote, because they're already receiving money, whether donations from us, but as well as foreign lobbyists or They don't even have to be foreign lobbyists, but private groups in America, whether it's the gas companies or cigarettes, etc., they're getting their money from these entities. So the only way that we can hold them accountable is by taking them out of office, because when they're not in office, they can't receive money at all. So at the end of the day, what they're going to try to do is get our votes. So if they start seeing a push from the American people where the Americans want America first and they're more focused on ways that they can help the U.S. citizens, maybe not all politicians, but some politicians will be open to changing their tune. So I agree with Nick at least on what he's trying to do in terms of getting people activated and paying more attention. I just, as always, I try to say I don't want to just single out one government, because I think that China was a problem at times in terms of, they said with TikTok, they were getting our information, etc. They've been flying the balloons. So I do think there are many governments trying to have spies, many governments trying to just get the upper hand on America. So we got to watch out for all of them. Oh, well, I'm going to go to the last clip, but one thing I did also notice was he brought up Anna Kasparo. So basically he's saying that he's not sticking to the left-right ideology. He's saying that his issue, he is a conservative, and I do think that him and Anna disagree on many things. But for this current battle, which seems like his most important battle, he's saying that I can't say all of the alt-right, but he's as him being one of the big voices of the alt-right and her being one of the big voices of the what I consider the I'm gonna call them alt-left, but the extreme left. He's saying that they're willing to work together on this one issue of Israel. I've noticed with the younger people, whether you're conservative or whether you're liberal, they don't really like what's going on with the Israeli war. And then a lot of people on the left, or on the right, are also talking about the history of what Jewish people have done throughout, let's say, the last 2,000 years for sure, being kicked out of various countries. They're saying that they see a pattern. So just with younger people across the board, people have a lot of questions about Israel. And as Nick said in the previous clip, you can't really talk about them or even ask questions. So for me, I believe we can ask questions. We need to ask questions. We need to find out what's going on. If there's some conspiracy, they're controlling us, we got to stop it. If there's not, then there's nothing for them to worry about, right? But Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, etc., the days are over where you're just going to silence people by calling them anti-Semitics. Just like the days are over where black people can silence people by calling them racist, right? Matt Walsh, Nick Fuentes, etc., right? We've overused all these words. Anti-Semitics is just anytime you say something about a Jewish person, and I won't deep dive into what a Semite is, even though early in the episode I told you the Semites come from East Africa, right? Same thing with racism, right? When people have disagreements with people, or people make a joke, or people say something insinuous, or say something degrading, yes, it can be a form of racism, but sometimes these are just opinions that people have. So if black people are allowed to say fuck whites and no one's saying black people are racist, it's kind of hypocritical of black people to then say white people are racist if they say fuck blacks or blacks are ghetto. I do think saying fuck blacks is racist, or saying blacks are ghetto is racist, but I also would say calling white people pedophiles is racist, or calling white people sexual deviants, or the face of homophobia, the face of the LGBTQ, etc. I think that is all racist. So there's racist on both sides is what I'm saying. So the term racist can be used, but it's died in terms of there being only certain people can be victims and then others are not. And I go through a few comments with you guys. Nick Fuentes, they're black people. This is from Taz. You are who we avoid in the street. I don't know why you guys avoided me. I'm pretty peaceful. I'm not fighting. I don't bother people. I think I could have a nice conversation. I try not to be racist. I try not to be judgmental. Some people call me a liberal, right? I think I'm open to various people and various ideas. So yeah, it says to subscribe to the channel, reach out to us on social. I don't mind talking to you, bro. The Lily Gaddis, the blackface. Conk, perm isn't pride. Hurt is not pride. This is a Michael Clemens. Lily is prideless enough to bother to complain about simpletons crying about racists that have not bothered to genocide Negroes yet. You're all over the place, not bothered to genocide. I mean, they've tried to kill black people many times. They fought wars, etc. I mean, it's just hard to suppose they say that they tried to get rid of the Jews with the Holocaust. I mean, it's hard to get rid of people, bro. People gonna fight back. This is Nick Fuentes declares GOP civil war from Corin Datacan C8I. Oh, it's changing. Evil deal strategies. diplomacies behind the scenes are not Israel first anymore. I think this is a good thing. I think people are waking up. I think that maybe in previous generations, because of what was going on at the time, maybe there had to be certain efforts made for Jewish people, etc. But now everybody has a say in the world is more global. I think that we just got to treat all nations similarly and fair. We got to just work on treating others the way we want to be treated inside of America, but also on the national scene. America has been a dominant force for a long time, but so was Britain. At other times was Rome. At other times was Africa, etc. East Asia. We're just coming into an age where maybe we won't have one leader, one major power. We just may have competing factions, and they may just have to learn to get along. And I'm actually for that. I don't care if one place has all the power. Like, I just want us to live to coexist in peace and be a prosperous humanity. This is Nick Fuentes. You must earn the right to criticize white people from pro-Russia. The Mongols not only colonized Europe. Okay, so he's saying that Asians colonized Europe. I'm not aware of this, but I would definitely look into it. They left their DNA in Europe to this day. Arabs colonized Europe. I knew Arabs and Northern Africans took over parts of Europe before. I did not know that East Asians had taken over parts of Europe before. In terms of them sharing DNA, they could share DNA for other reasons. I would just have to go through like the various hominins that they've had in society. What is Homo erectus, Homo sapien, Neanderthal, and Denisovan. The Denisovan is East Asian, but also Northern European. So it didn't have to be a situation where colonization caused them to share DNA. I read a few more. Nick Fuentes. This is also from Nick Fuentes. You must earn the right to criticize white people. The Jews can also disguise themselves as white. Well, it's not a disguise. I keep trying to tell anti-Semitic people that the Jewish people they are talking about are white. Ashkenazi Jews are white. They have they are part of the European heritage, right? So they're not from the Middle East per se, and they're definitely not from Africa. So though a lot of conservatives and a lot of anti-Semitic people want to state that they have no connection to these Jewish people that they are now saying are doing all these bad things, they do have a connection and heritage with Europe and Britain. Actually, they had a clip. I might have not done the clip today. There was a clip talking about the Rothschilds' connections to Judaism. So I'll have to check that clip out because I shouldn't speak out of turn without knowledge of the situation. But I'll play the clip and I'll look into it myself about like what's the connection there between the Rothschilds, who are from Britain, and then Israel and the Jewish faith, Judaism. Trying to see if there was something I wanted to say about that. I do know that who gave Israel to the Jewish people is Britain, right? Britain is who had control of Palestine. So, I mean, there is some connection between Britain and the current situation in Palestine. But again, guys, I don't want to say too much without knowledge on the situation. And this will be the last one. Nick Fuentes, you must earn the right to criticize white people again. This is from DI3ZL. Let's be honest. The white folks police to the world to an extent, and regime changes and other folks just found out more lucrative to come to America. There is a reason why affirmative action exists. He's right to a certain extent. Two statements can be true at the same time, so I think you're right too. Well, yeah, that's kind of like the back and forth with me and Nick. I don't know how many people take the time to watch we're not going back and forth because we're not really talking to each other, but when we go back and forth with our analysis of situations, I say he has points, I have points. I think where he's accurate, more people should listen and bring focus to it, because just because he's a sexist, just because he's racist, just because he's homophobic, that doesn't mean that he doesn't have anything that he can bring to the table, right? I just think that he should fix some of his childish ways, some of his bigotry. And then it's the same for me. Like, I'm a black person. Maybe I take more offense to when he's talking about black people. So maybe sometimes I miss some of his points. So that's why I'm cool with people in the comments, or I would also be cool with like people online, etc., in the real world, telling me, slow down, wait a minute. Maybe he's saying like 5 different things and you just heard race, and you then focus your entire answer on race. So you focus the majority of your answer on race, where, yeah, y'all disagree on race, but there are 3 other parts to the things he's saying, right? That's kind of what the show is about. As I said before to you guys, everybody has their baggage, their biases that they bring to the table. And so I turned the coin last time, Mace, but I'm probably going to start saying this often, guys. Make America strong for everybody, right? The point is, I'm not going to always be right. I'm not going to be always be wrong. No one's always going to be right or be wrong. If it's about humanity, if it's about America first, right? Before we even talk about humanity, if it's about America first, just like Nick said that he would be willing to work with Anna, who I'm sure they disagree. I'm willing to work with Nick. I'm willing to work with Groypers, etc. I'm the type of person who's going to piss off, the two people I just brought up. I'll work with the Jews, right? I would just have to find out, is there a place that there can be compromise where it's like, look, I don't have a problem with Jewish people. I just would have a problem with like Israel having too much influence. Same with Qatar, same with China, etc. Is I don't mind working with Chinese people. I don't mind Chinese immigrants coming to do high skilled jobs. Same thing with people from Latin America, etc. I think many of them have more roots here than some of the people from Britain. So my whole point of talking to everybody is saying, yes, we have America, but we can listen to other people. And the same way Americans think they have these blood roots, so do other people. Same way Palestinians think they have blood roots, so do people who are saying they're Jewish. They're saying that we were actually kicked out, right? So that's the whole thing. Is I know this is nuanced and it's kind of tricky, but my whole point is there's compromise where you don't have to have war. There's compromise where you don't have to have famine. There's compromise where you don't have to have inflation, etc. And I think, to me, I'm not the president. I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I think a lot of the problems in humanity are like caused by us, right? You and so disagree, and you're both not going to get your way. And if you can't get your way and you're mad, you're going to fight. You're going to fist fight. You're going to talk about each other. It may lead, fist fights can turn into killing, like war. If you want to be that way and be selfish, that's what's going to happen. But if we took a different approach and said, we got to live together, we got to figure out, how can I get some things I want? How can you get some things you want? You're a person, I love you. You're a person, I love you too. We respect one another. We agree to disagree. How can we make this work? So I just think it's a personal choice that we all have to make. That's kind of how I looked at the N-word, right? It was like, they were going to be racist. Let me find out what the word means before I just get offended. And let me not allow someone else to ruin my day or upset me because of their ignorance. If someone's ignorant, laugh at them, right? I know that's ironic coming from me, guys, how I acted in the Dear Black People video. But in all seriousness, I don't take Nick serious. I think he's a homosexual Hispanic, and I think that a lot of his rhetoric just makes him look ridiculous to most people. That's why I'm giving him suggestions, because I do want people to give him a chance. So that's enough rambling from me today, guys. If you like this episode, hit like, subscribe. Please, guys, share it with friends. We're still getting comments. We appreciate them. I'm still going over them. And I answer some on camera, but I also try to make it a point to answer each one in writing as well. So peace. Talk to you guys tomorrow. If you like this video, please smash the like button, comment, and subscribe. New shows airing Monday through Thursday.